The story of Bridgerton is hot and heavy, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that the show is filled with dark secrets, twists, and turns that no one could have expected. But there are a few secrets that are especially interesting that the cast doesn't want you to know about. Before we get started, be sure to hit that like button and ring the notification bell for more videos. Bridgerton Bootcamp. Watching the actors on screen, you may believe that they all have a natural affinity for this bygone era of Britain. They all seem like such natural in their costumes and carriages. However, you may be surprised to know that they spent 6 weeks at a boot camp learning how to look, act, and respond while working on the show. Cosmopolitan magazine spoke with Phoebe Dynevor, the actress behind Daphne, and she explains how difficult it was to learn all the ins and outs of the show. Though they all seem to have had a blast while learning, Phoebe says, "We literally did it all." Phoebe shared, "We had amazing intimacy coordinators. We had horse riding lessons, dance rehearsals, etiquette training, piano lessons, so we ticked every box in that respect."
Must I share your attention with every moon-eyed dandy, Miss Bridgerton?
Only the charming ones, Your Grace.
A Bridgerton family vacation. Even though the cast put in such an incredible amount of work while filming the show, it took the crew almost 9 months to wrap up the first season. Filming began in July of 2019 and didn't end until February of 2020. Thankfully, they wrapped everything up just days before the unforeseen pandemic hit. This was a ridiculous amount of time to film a television show, but the actors all seemed to have loved it. Even though this was an all-hands-on-deck production, everyone had time off to goof around and hang out in between shots. According to Jonathan Bailey, aka Anthony Bridgerton, it was like a summer camp. He says that when they weren't filming, there was plenty to do behind the scenes to stay entertained. He says Luke Newton, better known as Colin Bridgerton, always made sure there was a sports game being played behind the scenes, usually football or soccer. He also explained that there was a coffee crew, so no one needed to lift a finger for coffee, no matter what time of day it was. When they weren't sipping coffee or playing ball, they would sunbathe in their corsets and enjoy the outdoors.
Let me. With 4 brothers, you cannot imagine the nasty cuts I have tended to over the years.
Unexpected intimacy. If you've finished up season 1 of the show, you'll know that things get incredibly intimate between Daphne and Simon. Daphne, a sheltered young woman, is introduced to the world of marital intimacy by Simon, a man who is well-traveled and knows a thing or two in the bedroom. Though Daphne is pretty apprehensive at first, the two start going to town on one another about midway through the season. Scenes like this can be super difficult to film, but Phoebe and Simon say that the crew made it very comfortable for the two, and they spent days practicing their intimate scenes and getting comfortable with one another. Phoebe says that their preparations before filming played a big part in how well they worked together on screen. She says, "It was so well written, and we had an incredible intimacy coordinator who really helped us develop that kinship with each other and make sure the scenes were authentic and truthful, and that we all felt comfortable."
I had hoped I was mistaken, but clearly I was not.
How could you?
How could I? How could I?
A crowd of crew members. Shows like this are not filmed quickly, and they require months of preparation before filming can even begin. Because of this, the production studio had to hire loads of people to keep things moving smoothly. This team spared no expense and pulled out all the stops to make sure the show was as good as it could possibly be. And that meant hiring around 200 people to work behind the scenes. That may seem like a ridiculous number of people, but keep in mind, even with all these people, it still took almost 9 months to film 8 episodes. According to showrunner Chris, a carpenter was hired to create several of the props you see in the show. He says the carpenter worked day and night for more than 4 months, strictly making windows and fireplaces. That doesn't even include all the other pieces of the set. To create a period piece like this, it takes months, maybe even years of preparation to make sure that everything is just so. These guys were not joking around during the production of the series. Steamy scenes galore. So, without getting too gross, I'm sure most of us understand that this show was filled with hot, steamy scenes. In some episodes, it seems like intimate moments were given more screen time and basic conversation. These shows made sure to capture all the various aspects of a newlywed couple's life, both the highs and lows. That meant the actors would often spend hours in front of cameras doing their best to, well, please one another, for lack of a better word. But you have to keep in mind these actors have family back home. They all have parents, siblings, spouses, you name it. So some of the actors had to warn their family members before they watched the show. Phoebe spoke with Cosmopolitan and said she definitely warned her family before they watched for the first time. Regé joked and said he didn't warn his family. He wanted to surprise them. He says he wanted to let them off the leash, see what they discover. Jonathan wasn't quite so daring with his family. He spoke with his 90-year-old grandmother and suggested she read the book before watching the show, just to get a feel for how things would play out. He made sure to warn her that she would see his bottom before his face. No stealing. Over the years, you've probably heard of countless actors who make off with expensive or important props from the sets of their most popular shows or movies. Though with Bridgerton, the cast was not allowed to have sticky fingers. Jonathan said the show's coordinators were on their toes the entire time they were filming, making sure no one walked away with any important props. He says the only thing he was allowed to keep was his dance belt, which is basically just a thong that he had to wear underneath his white pants. He did his best to keep Anthony's signature ring, but he says the crew caught him before he made it to his car. I must admit, considering how expensive it must have been to produce this show, it makes sense that the actors weren't allowed to keep anything from the set. I'm sure most of those props cost hundreds or thousands of dollars. The actors are real-life best friends. This may not be much of a surprise, but did you know that most of the actors became best friends after filming? Considering they spent so much time preparing for the show and filming it, this probably isn't much of a surprise to anyone. These guys spent almost an entire year of their lives by each other's side, so it makes sense that they are now closer than ever before. Jonathan said, Phoebe, who plays Daphne, has now become a best friend, and I feel incredibly proud and protective of her as well as an older brother. I think when you're playing a family, a lot of the friendships just blossom from there. I think it's a testament to Shondaland that they managed to cast people who seem like a similar sort of tribe, and everyone really did get on. What's even crazier is that not only do they keep in touch, but there's a WhatsApp group that is dedicated to the actors, and they will regularly touch base with one another and keep tabs on each other to see what's going on. Jonathan says, as far as he can tell, all of the cast members are still a part of the group, so that's a good sign. Season 2. Considering their WhatsApp group is still super active and everyone remains a part of it, it's possible they may already be discussing plans for Season 2. We don't know anything about a new season just yet, and it seems like we probably won't know for quite some time. Though we can realistically expect Season 2 to launch sometime in 2022. With how long it takes to film shows like these, it seems incredibly unlikely that the crew would be able to throw something together and release it this year, especially since they haven't begun filming it yet. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to hit that like button and ring the notification bell for more videos.